What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the tools that you should be using if you're developing themes or plugins for WordPress. WordPress is used by millions of people around the world, from everyday bloggers to Fortune 500 companies. So it makes sense that a lot of people want to become theme developers or plugin developers. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about 22 different developer-centric plugins that you should use when you're creating or coding your WordPress theme or plugin itself. So wait, we're going to be using plugins to develop themes and plugins? Yes, the reality is that we want to make sure we can improve our workflow. And when it comes to coding, you're going to find out that there's always going to be bugs or issues that take place. And instead of having to hunt down these various bugs, the plugins I'm going to introduce you to will streamline that entire workflow and will let you know if there's any issues. This is perfect for anyone that wants to streamline their workflow and create virtually bug-free themes and plugins. So if you're looking to get into theme or plugin development, take a look at this video and I'll show you how these plugins work. Alright, so let's jump on the computer. Alright, so for this demonstration, I'm going to be using my DevWP WordPress Development Training theme, and I'll show you the different plugins that I use when I'm coding or developing for WordPress. So I'll go to the dashboard over here. I'm going to go to the plugin section, and I'll show you the install plugins that I have. As you can see, we have 22 different plugins over here. Alright, so what do they do? So I'm going to go in alphabetical order, and the first one that we have over here is called Debug Bar. So this adds a debug menu to the admin bar that shows your query, any cache, and other helpful debugging information. That's this item over here. But if we go to the more details, you get some more information about it. Alright, so you see that you have to enable this code snippet within your wp-config.php file. So I'll show you how that looks over here. This is my local development environment. Go to wp-config.php, and these are the snippets of code that we're going to be using here. Alright, so this is going to be vital when you're debugging your code. Now there's a couple of other extensions that go along with this plugin, and one of them is Debug Bar Console. So if we look at the details, this gives you some information about it as well. But if you want to see more detailed info, we can go to the plugin page itself. So if we X out of this over here, we can see that we have the console right here. So if we click on that, we get a console that we can work with PHP and SQL as well. So that's going to be very helpful. All right, we can X out of it over here. The next one is Debug Bar Climbed. So this one, again, if you want to view more details, you can take a look at that here. This provides you information of any number of scheduled events, if cron is currently running, time of the next event, current time, list of custom scheduled events, and things of that nature. So I'll show you where that's located here. We have the cron link right there, and that shows you more information about what's taking place in terms of cron jobs within your installation. So you see we have deleted expired transients, and we have some other information here that we can find helpful when we're developing for WordPress. Alright, so the next one is Debug Bar Extender. Again, look at the information. This plugin is very basic. It extends the debug bar that we're working with over here, and it gives you some examples of how you can use this plugin to debug your theme or your plugin that you're developing. There's X out of it over here, and you'll find that it has the link over here in the settings section, Debug Bar Extender. And these are some of the settings that you can work with right here. Now the next one's Developer. Now this one's going to be the first one that you probably install because some of these other plugins and options come built in with Developer itself. If we look at the details, pretty much this is a package of plugins that you could use. And I'll show you what they are here. If you go over here to the toolbar, you'll see that when you install this plugin, you could choose the type of project you're going to be working with. Is it going to be a plugin for a self-hosted WordPress installation? Is it going to be a theme for a self-hosted WordPress installation? Or is it going to be a theme for a WordPress.com VIP site? So since I'm doing a theme development course, I have this set to be for a theme for a self-hosted WordPress install. And as you can see, these are some of the plugins that come packaged with the developer plugin. Towards the bottom it says that we have WP debug set, which is good. That again is this code snippet right here. We're setting this to true. We're saving our queries, and we have pretty permalinks enabled. If you see this error over here towards the bottom, this takes place when you're running a local server and WordPress on a Windows machine. So in order to get rid of this, what I do is I have a little code snippet over here that I put in my functions.php file. Let me uncomment that line. So this snippet of code is going to shut down the WP, OB, and flush all and gives it the Boolean value of true. 1 is true, 0 is false. But for a production website, I wouldn't have this snippet of code there. That's why I have this comment over here to remind myself not to have this snippet on a production website. So if we save that file, go back here, you're going to notice this line or these two lines will disappear and they're gone. Alright, so now that works. Alright, so the next one is log deprecated notices. So what this plugin does is if you're using any outdated deprecated files, functions, or arguments, it's going to identify them and it's going to leave a log file for you. That way you can try to identify what the issue is and what replacement code you could use to make sure your theme is current and up to date. And for that you get a tool over here, deprecated calls. And as you see, we currently have 5 of them. So this one is not specific to the theme that I'm developing itself. These are actually deprecated calls within WordPress itself. So you can see what they are here. It says the function screen icon, and it tells you the path of where it's located at and on the line that it's located at. Currently there's no alternative available, and it was deprecated in 3.8.0. The next one is the get screen icon, and then we have the WP deregister script, and then we have the get themes and WP get HTTP. The next one we have is the log viewer. So if we look at the details here, we needed to define this constant over here, which we did within our code editor in our WP config file, that snippet right there. And what this does, it enables you to view log files directly within your WordPress dashboard. So this means you don't have to open up the log file within your text editor, you can view it right here. So let me show you where that's located at. Go over here, log viewer. So this tells you what issues might be taking place within your installation. And as you can see, it creates a debug.log file. And the location and path for it is right over here. It's going to be in your WP-content folder, debug.log. So let's go back over here. And it's this file right here. Alright, so the next one is Monster Widget. Now this is a good one to use because what's going to happen is when you're developing a theme, you're going to want to make sure that you're going to take into consideration every possible type of widget configuration and content that could be placed within different widget areas. So that's what this does. So we go to the front of the website, look over here. So we have the recent posts, we have the recent comments, the archives, categories, meta, and you can find it again over here in the widget section, right here, monster. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to drag this over here and we're going to put it right there. And that's going to bring in all of these options over here and then some. So if we go back to the front of the website, now we have the archive list, we have the archive drop down, we have a calendar, and this wasn't there with the standard widgets that we had, but they're there now because of the monster widget. So we have the categories list, the categories drop down, the pages, the meta content as well, and so on. So this is important so that way you can make sure that the styling of your theme is going to look good regardless of the content that's in the different widgetized areas. Go back to the dashboard, go to plugins. Alright, so the next one is the query monitor. So if we look at the details here, this is going to give us a lot of information in terms of any database queries that we're making. It's going to show you all database queries performed for the current request. It'll show you the affected rows, and it'll give you a whole lot of information that you're going to find useful. So let me just show you what that looks like. If you go to the front of the website, you're going to get this option over here, and this is for the query monitor. So you get the notices, you get the deprecated calls as well. You can get the query information. So these are all the queries that are taking place from your installation to the database. And then you also get some of these other options as well. It also tells you if you're using the front page or the home page, which is pretty cool. All right, so that's the query monitor. Let's go back to install plugins. Now regenerate thumbnails. If you're working with a theme or if you're working with different themes, you're going to have images installed on your website. And if you're changing the configuration or the size in terms of the dimensions for the images, you're going to need to refactor those. So what I did is I brought in the theme unit test data and I downloaded the files that came with the theme unit test data. So now for this, I'll go to Tools, and regenerate thumbnails. And it's going to tell me that we have thumbnails that we can actually regenerate over here. So we're going to click this button over here, regenerate thumbnails for all 37 attachments. And it'll process that information and it'll regenerate all those images, making sure they're using the dimensions set forth from your theme. And it's done. Now, if you have a lot of images, that can take a considerable amount of time, but it's important to make sure that your images are properly sized and formatted. All right, let's go back over here. The next one's going to be the Rewrite Rules Inspector. We can get more information about it here, and this shows you some information about what this does. It's pretty straightforward. It's all about your rewrite rules. So let me show you what that looks like. Go over here to the tools, and then Rewrite Rules. And then this shows you all the rewrites you have for your installation. So we have a list of 89 different rewrite rules for this site. And it shows you what they are, shows you the rewrite, and it'll show you the source. So this one's coming from category. Then we have the post tag, the post format. We have other, we have root, we have comments, we have the search rewrite rule, we have the author rewrite. This shows you all that information. So if you're working with a plugin that's going to be in some way, shape, or form using the rewrite rules, then this plugin is going to be very helpful for you so you can debug or make sure that everything's going the way you want it. All right, so the next one is going to be the Show Current template. So review details. We can see it's very popular. And this is a straightforward plugin. What it does is it lets you know which template file you're working with while you're on the front end. So let me show you how that looks. And just as a note, you don't want to use these plugins on a live production website. These are for development purposes and should only be used in your development environment. Here we are on the front page. So here it's telling me that we're using the template file index.php. It shows you the relative path, the theme name. It lets you know if it's a child theme or not. And then it also shows you what files are being included with this particular template file. So we have the footer, the functions, the header.php, and some other files as well. If we go to a different page, now you see we're using the single.php file, and these are the files that it's using here. You go here, now we're using the archive.php file. Now this is going to be important because you want to make sure that each of your files are coded properly. Okay, let's go back to the dashboard, go back to the plugins, installed, and now we're going to look at the simple history. Now this plugin takes it logs everything that's taking place within your website and it shows you it within your dashboard. So you can look at the details here. Gives you some information about what this actually does. It shows you everything from the posts and the pages, the attachments, what taxonomies were added or deleted, any comments, what plugins were activated or deactivated, any user profiles that were added, things of that nature. Now this plugin you could use on a production website if you want to see some of that information. So let me show you what that looks like. We'll go to the dashboard and you have this activity section there, but underneath that we have the simple history. So you can look based on the date and you can go back to a custom range or based on 7 days, 14 days, etc. And you can see some of the information that it's giving you. Now this is good because if you're developing your theme or plugin and you're using or testing different plugins to help you along the way and you deactivate or delete one of them, this will let you know what's taking place and it'll keep a log file for you. So that's cool. All right, so go back to plugins, installed. Now the next one is simply show hooks. Now this is a great one because as a theme or plugin developer, you're going to be working with action hooks and filter hooks. So we can look at more details over here, but it's best if I can actually show you here. So we'll go to the front of the website. It's going to be this option over here to simply show hooks. We could just show the action hooks, and this shows you what action hooks are being used and where they're being used. So the reason why this is important is because when you're working with WordPress, you're going to want to know which action hook or filter hook is being used within different particular areas. And if you want to debug something or if you want to see what hook you should be using, this is a great tool to use. As you can see, with some of them you could hover over the link there and it'll give you some additional info. Now if you want to show the action and filter hooks, you get even more information about what's being used within your current theme and WordPress setup. Now it does provide you a lot of information, so you're going to have to spend some time with it, get to know the plugin and get to know where all this stuff is located at. And the best tool that you could use for that is the WordPress Codex or the developer.wordpress.org site itself. And you could check up all these different functions, action hooks, or filter hooks and see what exactly they do. But this gives you an idea of what's taking place and where. See, we have the get header over here. We have the WP_head, and it gives you some more information about that. It's really a good tool. Now, how do you get out of it? You just click on this link over here, stop showing hooks, and then that's gone. All right, so we'll go back to the dashboard, install plugins. The next one is simply show IDs. So if you look at the details, it tells you that it shows the IDs of the various posts, pages, medias, links, categories, tags, etc. So what does that mean? If you're working with a database, you're often going to want to find the ID of a different post or page or a different item in your installation. So if you go to post over here, with that plugin installed, you get the ID of each post right over here in this column. And it's the same thing for the pages. You get the ID right there, comments, the ID right there. And that way, when you're working with the database, you'll be able to work with those different IDs. So we go over here, you see you have the comment ID right here. So comment ID number 2 belongs to Anon. Go over here, and you see over here that ID corresponds right there. So it matches what we see in the database. All right, so we go back to plugins, installed. The next one is theme authenticity checker. So if we look at the details, pretty much it verifies that your theme doesn't have malicious code inside of it. So let me show you what that looks like. Go over here to appearance and TAC. It's going to tell you if your themes are okay. So currently I have DevWP installed over here. That's the training theme. It says it's okay. We have 2017, and we have the WordPress for YouTube theme that I created for a quick time-lapse demonstration. So it says we have one static link found, and that's going to be in the footer, and that is this right here. We go back up right here. If you notice in the DevWP theme, it's coded differently and it doesn't show that issue because of the way it's presented. All right, so now we go back to plugins, installed, scroll down. Then we have the theme check plugin. So we can look at details here. Pretty much if you're going to be uploading your theme to the WordPress repository, you're going to want to make sure you use this plugin right here to verify that you're using the coding standards that WordPress wants for themes that are uploaded to WordPress.org. So you would go over here, go to appearance and theme check. Now I'm going to check DevWP, and it's going to tell me that we have a deregister script in the functions.php file, and that we also have both DOS files and Unix files, which can be an issue for SVN. So it tells us which file we have to work on. Go back over here. As you can see, this file is has this file ending right here, the CRLF. Now this is for DOS or Windows machines, and LF is for the Unix or Linux machines. So we can change that there, save it, run the theme check again, and now that warning is gone. Now in terms of the jQuery one, that happens because a lot of developers are either using an advanced version of jQuery, so they need to deregister the version used by WordPress directly and then register a new one. And it's also used because you're going to often want to make sure that your website has fewer HTTP requests directly from your site. So over here, we're calling in jQuery from the Google API, which means we don't have to have another HTTP request to our server. But if you're going to submit the theme to the WordPress.org repository, you're going to want to handle this differently, which means you'll just be using the version of jQuery that comes with WordPress by default. All right, now go back to plugins, installed, scroll down, and over here we have the theme inspector. So if we view details over here, this is similar to the show current template, but it's another one that I find very helpful. So let me show you what this one is. If you go back to the front end, visit site, we look at the theme inspector. Over here it tells you that the content type is home blog. We're using the is front page conditions, and we're using the index.php file. So this is very helpful information. It's similar to this information over here, but it's presented in a different way. Now, transients manager. So if you look at this, as a developer, you're going to be often working with transients. Now, I'm going to do another video on how transients work because it's a very big topic. but pretty much this gives you a better understanding on how to analyze the transients that are taking place, because they can get in the way or they could be very helpful. The gist of it is they are a way to cache certain types of data, and they expire, and sometimes you may want to force expire them or delete them in advance, so that way you can test out a different type of functionality. So let me show you that tool over here. We'll go to Tools and Transients, and these are all the transients that we currently have. Now you can edit the transient, you can delete the transient. You see we have a bunch of them here. All right, just go back to Plugins, Installed. Now user switching. Now this is great if you're going to be working with a plugin for like membership purposes, or if you're going to be working with some type of functionality within your theme, and you want to make sure that only certain types of user roles have access to certain areas. So let's say you're working on a membership type plugin or a membership type website, and you want to make sure that only paid members of your website is able to access the paid content. All right, so the way that this works is you'll go over here to the users, go to all users, and you see we have one administrator and one subscriber. For demonstration purposes, we know that administrators, we can install themes, install plugins, we can delete pages, add posts, things of that nature. Subscribers are not supposed to have that role. Now imagine you have a membership situation over here, and you want to make sure that this particular subscriber doesn't have access to your membership area. Well, you would switch to that specific role using that plugin, and now you see you have limited capabilities as that user role. So this gives you the ability to see how your website works with different user roles to make sure that you're protecting your content the way that you have to protect it. And then you just switch back, and now you have all these other options back over here. When I scroll down, now WordPress Beta Tester. Now this is important to use because what's going to happen is WordPress is actively worked on, which is a great thing. It means that people are looking at the code on a daily basis. Now as a theme or plugin developer, you want to make sure that your theme that you're working on or the plugin you're working on is going to work with the next release or next version of WordPress itself, because you don't want your theme or plugin to break people's websites. So by using the WordPress Beta Tester, you can verify that your theme or plugin is going to work properly with the next version. And finally, the WordPress Importer. This is important to use because when you're going to be creating a theme or plugin, it's always recommended that you use a fresh installation of WordPress and that you use the theme unit test data. Now the theme unit test data gives you a bunch of content for your website that you could use in order to make sure that everything's properly formatted on your site. It shows you how the different sections are formatted and how the content's being presented to the front-end user. Now that's a lot of plugins. That's 22 different plugins. Now, do you need to use all these plugins? The answer is no. They do help your workflow, and I find a lot of them to be very valuable depending on the project I'm working on. I don't use them all on every single theme or plugin I'm working on. It really depends what the aspect or what the scope of that particular project is going to entail, and that'll determine what I should be using. But in general, these are the 22 WordPress developer-centric plugins that's going to greatly improve your workflow. Take a look at them, go to the homepage on WordPress.org, get some more information. Some of them are also housed on GitHub, so you may want to check them out there as well. And get familiar with them, because as a developer, as a coder, the tools you use are going to make the world of difference. They can mean the difference of hunting down a problem within the core of WordPress for days or weeks and bringing that timeline down to maybe minutes or hours. So that's productivity enhanced. And we live in a world where time is money. So the more time we could save, theoretically, the more money we can make. So again, these are 22 developer-centric plugins. You should only use the vast majority of these on your local development environment. Some of them you can use on a production site. Like obviously, if you're going to be changing themes, you're going to want to use the regenerate thumbnails. That's okay to use. You would install it and then regenerate your thumbnails. Then just go ahead and delete the plugin once you're done. There's no need to have the plugin installed once you've already regenerated your thumbnails. You may want to have the simple history one installed as well. And you may want to check out the authenticity or the theme check of your theme that you're using on your website. So those are some that you may want to consider using. Now, if you're migrating from another WordPress installation, or if you're migrating from another platform, you could use this plugin to help you migrate your content. But again, once you're done, you would definitely delete this over here. Alright, so that's the 22 different plugins that you might want to consider using when you're developing for WordPress itself. And you get a bunch of different tools over here. You can suspend transients, you can debug, look at the theme inspector over here. It gives you some information about what file is being used. Alright, so if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification icon. If you want to learn how to develop a WordPress theme, check out the DevWP training theme playlist that I have in the card and in the description down below. And I will see you next time. Take care.